These are just a few of the over 1,400 protests that took place this past weekend in response to the actions of the Trump administration. What you're seeing here is me showing you 20 of those protests all at once. I could continue displaying 20 at a time for the entire hour, and we still wouldn't get through them all. Let's take a look at these first 20, starting from the top, left to right, and then moving down row by row. The top left corner shows Atlanta, Georgia, where police estimated at least 20,000 attendees. In Los Angeles, the LA Times said the crowd reached tens of thousands, possibly around 100,000. Seattle had a major turnout as well, with minimum estimates putting the number around 14,000. Keep going. Huntsville, Alabama, Portland, Oregon, Davenport, Iowa, Charlotte, North Carolina, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lansing, Michigan, Palm Beach, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona had a massive gathering. Providence, Rhode Island, Salt Lake City, Utah saw a huge crowd. Austin, Texas, Buffalo, New York, Columbia, South Carolina, Indianapolis, Indiana had a massive showing. Sacramento, California also had large numbers. Detroit, Michigan, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's 20 cities out of over 400 total protests. Here are 20 more for you, again listed left to right, top to bottom. In the upper left corner, we have Baltimore, Maryland, followed by Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Tampa Bay, Florida, Helena, Montana, Rapid City, South Dakota, and Washington, D.C., where estimates put the crowd at over 100,000. Next to D.C., we've got Chicago, Illinois, where estimates were even higher than in the capital. Then there's Denver, Colorado, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and New York City, which also had around 100,000 people. Honolulu, Hawaii also joined in, so did Boston, Massachusetts. Local media there reported nearly 100,000 participants on Boston Common. Interestingly, the Boston Globe's letters to the editor section was full of complaints today from readers upset that the paper didn't give the event the attention it deserved. Continuing, we have Dallas, Texas, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Hartford, Connecticut, St. Paul, Minnesota, which had a tremendous turnout at the state capitol. And finally, Savannah, Georgia, and Cincinnati, Ohio. The weather didn't stop anyone either. In Joplin, Missouri, it was so cold and rainy that people put their signs in plastic bags. Those without mittens wore socks on their hands just to stay warm while protesting. It poured heavily in northeast Louisiana as well, but that didn't keep people from turning out. In Terre Haute, Indiana, people braved the weather, holding both umbrellas and protest signs. Despite the rain, everyone made room for each other's umbrellas and smiled through it all. They stood strong. In deep red Naples, Florida, where the weather was nice, organizers reported about 7,000 attendees. That may sound typical for good weather, but keep in mind, this is a county that voted for Trump by a margin of 33 points in November. Still, 7,000 people came out to protest on Saturday. In Detroit, Michigan, participants waved across the river to Windsor, Ontario, where Canadian protesters waved back in solidarity. Up north in Dillingham, Alaska, near Bristol Bay, people gathered too. Even at the end of the Iditarod sled dog race in Nome, Alaska, where Saturday morning temperatures hit a chilly 0 degrees Fahrenheit, folks still came out to speak their minds. In Chagrin Falls, Ohio, crowds gathered. In El Paso, Texas, and Pittsfield, Massachusetts too, where around 2,000 people showed up despite heavy rain. Green Bay, Wisconsin had an impressive turnout. Statesboro, Georgia also saw a strong presence. All across deeply red states, crowds kept appearing. Take Gulfport, Mississippi for example. Protesters there marched holding a large banner that read, "Trump sucks." Helena, Montana showed a strong presence, as did Knoxville, Tennessee, and Northwoods, Wisconsin. If you caught the Friday night show, you might remember a group of older women from New Jersey, or just a circle of longtime friends who had sent us photos of themselves preparing to protest over the weekend. The average age in that group, 90. I've got two quick updates about them. First off, yes, they absolutely did get out and protest over the weekend. You can see some of them here, walking with the help of walkers and still proudly holding their signs. Second, if you recall, I had guessed during Friday's segment that the woman making the Dump Trump sign, the one with the cartoon legs sticking out of a trash can, might have been an artist or a former art teacher. Well, it turns out that hunch was spot on. She is in fact a retired art teacher. And yes, she was out there with the group protesting this weekend. With enthusiasm, I stand here to speak out against Trump's policies. They are harming us. They are damaging our children, and soon enough, they will harm the nation as a whole. It's clear that we must reject Trump. As for me, the thing I most aspire to be when I grow older is simply an older person, and I'm quickly reaching that stage. However, over the weekend, there were many others who seemed to be outpacing me in that regard, and witnessing that was one of the most motivating aspects of the events we saw. On the left of your screen, you can see Montrose, Colorado, where people are saying one depression was enough. On the right, that's Madison, Wisconsin, where centenarians are expressing that they see no future with Trump. Moving to the left again, in Harrisonburg, Virginia, we have hands off Medicaid, and on the right side, that's Houston, Texas, where an elderly woman is standing strong fighting to defend our Constitution. In Newtown, Connecticut, there are two canes accompanied by a quote from Senator Cory Booker's remarkable filibuster this past week. This is a moral moment. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, they held a special protest just for seniors, seen on the left side of your screen. This protest was separate from the massive rally that took place downtown, as Grand Rapids was large enough to hold two protests, one dedicated to seniors and another filled with thousands of people. In Flagstaff, Arizona, there was a good dog in good trouble, and in Huntsville, Alabama, as well as other locations, we saw dogs taking a stand against Doge. In Los Angeles, there were signs that really made me curious about the backstories. For example, on the left side, you'll see a sign that says, "You know times are bad if you're protesting with your ex-husband," followed by another sign saying, "You know times are bad if you protest with your ex-wife." These two were married for 30 years, and while they've clearly gone their separate ways, they reunited this weekend to protest the Trump administration. Also in Los Angeles, there was another sign reading, "I bite fascists." Let's just assume that's an exaggeration, shall we? Lastly, we saw Penguins Against Fascism, also in Los Angeles, and slogans like "No tariffs, no tyrants." Just krill this protest sign was spotted in several places over the weekend. In Riverside, California, there was a sign that read, "Honk if you've never drunk texted war plans." We also saw variations of signs referring to one of the darkest moments of the presidential campaign. They're eating the checks, they're eating the balances, they're devouring our democracy. This was in San Jose, California. In Newark, Delaware, we saw a particularly insightful one that said, "Do not panic, organize." A special message for college campuses and law firms. Many signs this weekend carried a scary and ominous theme, like this one from Washington, D.C. "Resist like it's 1938 Germany." Another one from Washington had tornado imagery with the words, "Don't like surprises, protect Noah." In West Palm Beach, Florida, there were numerous signs and flags showing support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Georgia, home to the CDC, we saw these signs: "Markets down, measles up, fight for America," and "Hands off my earned Social Security, hands off disability rights." Another sign from Atlanta read, "Mild-mannered church lady against oligarchy." In Honolulu, there was a sign that read, "Fascism is bad, says history." And in Des Moines, Iowa, people got creative with a twist on a classic tune: "Super callous, fragile, racist, narcissistic puss. We believe your fascist dream is something quite atrocious. We'll resist the oligarchs and always work for justice." I can't even tell you how many times I practiced that one. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on a hot Saturday afternoon, there was a protest with a sign featuring a squirt bottle labeled "Bad Doge" and a very mischievous dog with the message, "Off bad Doge." The sign next to it read, "Resist the criminal and his little Doge too." In Boston, signs included, "Courage is contagious with rage, colored in on courage," and "Stand up now or bow down later," with another saying, "Reject tyranny." In Lansing, Michigan, there was a powerful message: "This is the government our founders warned us about." In Novi, Michigan, people carried bold signs like "Hard no on being Russia 2.0," and "My dad taught me to stand up to bullies." In Tupelo, Mississippi, a particularly fiery sign read, "President Musk must go," while in Omaha, Nebraska, protesters filled the bridge with a bold message: "No kings in America." In Omaha, Nebraska, protesters lined both sides of the overpass bridge and the street, holding signs that read, "Better together." Meanwhile, in New York City, there was a sign that said, "Let them eat Teslas." Alongside those, we also saw some cute penguins in sweaters protesting tariffs in Columbia, South Carolina, with a sign reading, "We tariffed penguins, but not Russia."